What's up, Cybonics, and welcome back to a new quick win. Today we're talking about a navigation pattern. We're not building the WhatsApp application. We might do this in another build with Ionic tutorial, but today we will focus on the navigational aspect, and that is having a different view for small devices and bigger like desktop or tablet devices. You can see this in applications like WhatsApp. You have the list of chats on a small device. On a bigger screen, you have this one side with the list of your chats, and the other area is the main area with the actual chat. It's also the same for like email clients, for the iOS settings application if you compare it from the small screen to an iPad. And this isn't actually too easy because it's not the standard behavior of having a split pane. So we're gonna use some shared components to have shared logic, but then we need additional logic to make this kinda responsive. If you wanna follow the code, check out the link below the video for all Ionic Academy members. And if you're not yet a member, of course, check it out, ionicacademy.com, my place to help you with everything Ionic. So let's get into our WhatsApp navigation. Alright, so let's get started with our application. We're gonna start with a blank Ionic application as always and generate two additional pages, home and detail. We will see how they work later. We also generate a module and a component, doesn't really matter in which direction you make this. Just get started with a shared components module and a new component, because the whole idea, or part of the idea, is to reuse part of our logic, as the navigation itself for this concept is kind of difficult. So we have on the left hand side this kind of list on a big screen, and on a small screen we directly have that list in here. So that list, or so for the WhatsApp example, the chat list, is the shared component. If you would like to replicate like the iOS settings app, you would have the settings on the main screen or on the left hand side and share that. So we're gonna start with that. Once you got those pages and components in place, we can also head over to our app routing module, because we need to change this a bit. We will use the list as sort of the main view for mobile devices, and the list with a placeholder name is basically the details page. So this is mostly focused for mobile. For web, we're gonna use a different kind of layout, and therefore we will just load our layout page and we will see how we get to that page later. So for the beginning, we're gonna focus on this. Also, let's maybe start with a component, because it's just a little dummy example. So within the shared components module, we're gonna have to export our list component and hit save, and then we're gonna get into maybe let's get into the types. There was of course the wrong file. Into the TypeScript file and generate a few chats. Also, variable is mobile. We will see how that works later. For now, let's simply add a function to open a chat. Basically, our chat is just an iteration over the array of chat data. So just as easy as this. ng4, let's see of chats, and on click, we're gonna open a chat. That is the component or the logic we want to share. Everything is marked red right now because our module doesn't know about Ionic, so we're going to add the Ionic module into the imports of the shared components file as well, and then everything in here is happy. And to open the chat, we're going to inject the router. So there we go, router, and then this dot router navigate by URL. And if you remember our app routing, perhaps we should keep that open. We're gonna have to get to this path. So basically what we wanna do is we wanna go to /list and then the name, and we will just use the name from our chat's data. For now, we're gonna change this hopefully in the end. Now we're gonna display our list component in the actual list. So we're gonna go to our list page, and within the list page, of course, we also need to import the shared components in our list module file, so we can actually access our just created component, and then we can inject the list component just like this into our list. So that gives us the basic, let's say, mobile view. We can already dive into details. We see the name is just passed with a URL. It's really just a basic example. If you would like to make this look like the real WhatsApp chat app, you could simply add a few buttons here and there, edit, create outline, and I think actually they also have this cool effect where you get the header in the main area as well. So it now looks like this. We can see it on my device actually. That's good. So this is how it looks on a real iOS device. We now got the title in here, and once we scroll up, it moves up there. So that's the whole idea of having this Ion header collapse condense in here. If you want to get rid of the border, also add Ion no border, and that's basically everything to make this happen. So I think for Android this doesn't really change anything, but for iOS this is the effect we get. We can also get to the details page in here, so that looks already pretty nice. We don't have to do anything else in here. We have our dummy search area. For Android, it now looks like this. We could also style this more, but we will leave it like it is for the moment. Let's also head over to our detail page, because on the detail page, that's the place where we're gonna access the name of the chat, so we actually see that our whole logic is working. We're gonna inject the route, so we can grab the parameters from the URL, and therefore we go with this.name equals route. Where is it? Paramap get, no, snapshot, this.route, snapshot paramap get, and then the placeholder we used in our app routing, which is in this case name. Usually I have something like ID in there, which makes sense because it will be hard to retrieve your chat information based on the name, but up to you, however you want to do it. So for this page, it's really just dummy stuff. We have a button with a back button, so we can navigate, our title, and more dummy buttons. I don't want to put any content in here for now. I just want to have it exactly like this. And for the mobile view as well, looks pretty good. Actually, I really like how the chat moves up into back. So that works really great. I had an image in there which kind of messed up the design, and this video should be really just about the navigational aspects. If we want to get into the WhatsApp UI, leave a comment below, and we maybe gonna have another build with Ionic in the near future. But for now, we want to see how we can make our whole application now responsive, so we can also see it on a screen like this. If we right now go to web, I actually have implemented something already for that, but it's not much. So let's follow the web path, and we used another page, which I call layout. And within the layout page, I simply added a split pane. So in the beginning, I tried this with a split pane and having kind of logic in here to switch between mobile and web layout. But if you have a split pane, if you have the router outlet here and you're gonna hide part of it, it's really gonna mess up your whole view. So therefore, I decided for a different kind of logic that we now implement within the app component. And the first step that we're gonna take in the app component is check in the beginning if we're running on a mobile device or not. We can do this by injecting the platform and getting the width. No, we actually don't need the width as far as I know, but we definitely need the router in here as well. So let's, do we actually need the width? Yeah, perhaps. I think we need it. So let's grab the width, which we can get from this platform width. There are like 100 other ways to get this. I just like to use the Ionic services that we got access to. And then we will say this is mobile if our width is below 992. That's a specific reason and a specific number because that's the breakpoint for the split pane where it usually collapses into the menu. So once we see the, maybe we can already open this to show you this. If you make the view of a split pane smaller than 992, we see the pixels, and there we see that's the breakpoint. And therefore we're gonna use that for our calculation as well. And now we could also check, for example, if this is mobile, or actually it might make sense to simply check if we're not mobile, and in that case route to a different URL. In that case we're gonna route to the web layout, and we're gonna enter replace URL so people can't go back as well. So if our application opens with a big width, let's say we usually get to this page, which will always open a list. But if we are already opening this with a big view within maybe an Electron app, we would automatically go to the web layout. But we also need to take care of this. So making the screen smaller, and then we should usually see the list again. And for that we can simply implement a host listener, which listens to the window resize event. And we're gonna get access to the event data. We're gonna give this a name. Let's call this on resize. Very clever. And whenever we now resize the window, we can grab the new width of the window like this: event target dot inner width. Now I'll put a lock in here as well, so we can first of all see this in action. So let's see. And I resize, and you see it's becoming smaller and smaller now, and different direction, and it gets bigger. Now, based on the information of the width, and also if we're running on a specific platform, we can now have a combined information. So if we're currently on a mobile screen, meaning for whatever reason we started like this with the mobile screen, and now suddenly the new width is bigger than our breakpoint. Maybe we should define this as a little breakpoint up here. So then you could also change this breakpoint, and if the new width is bigger than the breakpoint, we're gonna redirect the user to the web UI, because in that case the mobile UI isn't appropriate anymore, and we really need to guide them to a different page in our navigation to make the whole idea here work. Then we don't use the else, we actually use an else if we're currently not running on a mobile device. So we have a big screen, and at some point our new width is below our breakpoint. Actually, we should use bigger or equal at some place, otherwise we have like a blank spot. In that case, we need to break into the default layout, which we can do by navigating back to our list, which is usually the default. And in the end, we can also set our is mobile again, basically with this calculation. New width breakpoint. There we go. So let's check this out. We start on a bigger screen now, and we move back to a small screen, and we're on our list. We go back to a bigger screen. Actually, I think it doesn't really need to be that responsive, and right now it's not really responsive. It's kind of responsive. The user is thrown to a different page. I think the user will accept this in that situation, but I think more important is that if we deploy this now as a mobile application, we're gonna see this view. If you deploy it to an iPad or any kind of tablet, you're gonna see the bigger version of your application. And if somebody's using your app as an Electron application, they will also have it like this, and they could have the fallback like that. So really, it in general works. And I think that's the most important part here. Not that we're gonna need media queries and everything in one page, because really the logic for the menu is in one component, and we can now use this in our application. So what we're gonna need for the split pane to work, which is what we currently display, is another routing. And in fact, I have created that routing already for you. So within your layout routing page, I guess this isn't in there. So therefore only the layout page will be displayed with the Ion split pane, but without any kind of content. But if you now put into the same, or basically the same routes like before with list and the placeholder name, and for default I generated an empty page. Did we have this in the beginning when we created the pages? Otherwise, simply go ahead with Ionic generate pages empty, because if you open WhatsApp on a desktop, you see this empty page. You don't really have to. You could also use any kind of other page. So that is our routing. And we're right now on the web page, which is basically the empty path. Since we come from here, the web path of the URL is already resolved. We get into this, we don't have any specific path to match, so the empty page will be displayed. On that empty page, I really just have like, please open a chat. That's what you see in here. More important is the actual menu now. And the menu can be defined right here in our split pane layout. That's what I wanted to say. And if I find the right code for this now, that would be great. So we have our router outlet. Within the content, we of course gonna display our app. What was it called? No, it's called list component. Why isn't it called app actually? That's strange. Did I rename that? That's the wrong file. Yeah, that's why in the third it's like a USB stick. Yeah, I define it as list component. Well, so maybe in your case it's actually app list component. Not sure about that. Also, it's red most likely because we haven't added the shared components module once again. So we cover really a lot of error cases in here. Hope you enjoy that. And for the menu itself, so this part is the menu which displays our content and a header area. And for the header area, I really just use a dummy mockup with a few buttons, an image, which is actually my own image, and the search bar just to fake this UI. And now we have here inside the sidebar a great UI. Looks great. I should have just removed that image. I think I used 25 by 25 in the beginning, in the end, didn't I? Whatever, I really don't care about that image for now. We're here for the navigation. So now I can click on these and I navigate to the completely wrong page. But at least we have the shared logic for displaying them in here. Our other logic isn't affected by the layout, so this really works completely great still. But this page isn't working correctly. So that means we now need to have a little additional logic inside our app component, inside our list component. And now I know I need to click the blue one. And what we're gonna do in here is we also gonna check if we are running on a mobile device or if we're running on the web. So we're gonna change our isMobile right in the beginning. This dot isMobile equals, and now a little bit ugly hack, I would say, if not the router dot URL starts with web. So we know that's also part of the reason why I established this route for the web itself. That means we can always be sure if we start any kind of navigation with web in the beginning, we're not running on a mobile device. Otherwise we are. And then we can change this because currently it opens the wrong page. We're not inside the split pane navigation anymore. It should be like this, web list met. Then it would, I think, open in here. We will see it. Let's give it a try. But most importantly also, it uses this open animation, which is a push and not setting the root, which we usually do within the split pane or any kind of menu setup. So let's say let to whatever that was. To open is first of all this, and then we're gonna check if we're not running on a mobile device. So if not, this is mobile. We're gonna say to open equals web Or do we need a slash? Maybe we need another slash in here. Web and then to open. So we simply attached web in front of our already existing URL. And then our router can use that URL, and I really hope this works now. There we go. So now we see we're opening, we're not opening the list details page anymore, but now if we inspect it, web list Andrew, we know we go into the layout page, into the layout routing, and use this path to same details page. So that's actually the same details page, but we're accessing it within our split pane layout here now. That's the whole magic. So this part and this area is actually reusing a page and a component, but we still make this work in two separate environments here. Okay, great. The only thing that's missing right now is that we still have this kind of ugly animation in here, which isn't really fitting for the split pane layout. And we can easily fix this by injecting the router. No, not the router, the nav controller from Ionic Angular. So there we go. And then we can define bytecode in which direction we're moving. So if this is mobile, we're gonna use the forward animation, and otherwise we're gonna set the root animation. And we consume this by using the nav controller right before we call navigate by URL on the actual router and call set direction, and animated is the second property, and we say it's simply animated on mobile and not animated on the web. And now let's see the difference. There we go. And it simply replaces the page, while on a mobile, we still have that nice forward push animation and can go back. So now we have separated everything and we have it really custom. We have a shared logic here and here. For the web, we actually have this header part for us custom on the iOS device. This is a bit custom, so you can really play around. You could even pass any input to your component if you want to have like the header area or any other shared stuff in the component. Also for the page, you could now check on which route you run if you're on a mobile device or on a bigger screen. But overall, we have managed to create this kind of detail pattern on small screen and this split pane layout on bigger screens in a kind of responsive way with Ionic now. Alright, and that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this quick win on building this navigation pattern that you see in quite a few common applications. It's not 100% responsive. We don't have media queries and easily adapt this. We have this change within our app component where we need to route to a different page. But overall, I think this still works pretty good, as you still have one code base. You have shared components across mobile and desktop views. And well, that's basically the whole idea of Ionic, isn't it? So you get the right result on a small device and you get the right result on a bigger screen, and it is kind of responsive if you want to. So if you got any questions, as always, let me know in the comments. If you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't liked the video, do it now, and make sure, you stay subscribed so you don't miss our upcoming videos about Ionic. I hope you have a great week, and I will catch you next week like always. So happy coding, Simon.